This is also a war which has, kind of the liberals, the Democrats' fingerprints all over it, which I think is another piece of it that too often people today kind of forget. But Kennedy and LBJ really were the architects of the major escalation and the use of firepower. And when because I know you talked about that, and even in some of your major essays like The Responsibility of Intellectuals, you talked about that. How did that go over? Because you're in Cambridge, you have, this is kind of the Kennedy's backyard. McGeorge Bundy, the Bundys are there. When you talked about the complicity of the Democrats and liberals and how they were kind of responsible for this, how did people respond to that? Did you catch a lot of hell for that?
Well, I was living in Boston at the time, in Cambridge, which was the center of American liberalism, probably the most liberal city in the country. We couldn't have public demonstrations against the war because they would be broken up violently, often by students in liberal Boston. It wasn't until when we tried to have demonstrations in the Boston Common, the usual place, couldn't do that, be broken up. We tried to have them in churches. Churches were attacked. This was going on until late 1966, early 1967 began to switch. At that point, South Vietnam had practically been destroyed. You take a look at the commentary of Bernard Fall, the most respected military historian, Vietnamese specialist, the one who the US government actually respected most. McNamara described him as the one non-government scholar who they really had to take seriously. By the time we were able to have a demonstration in Boston, he was writing. He was a hawk himself, no dove. But he cared about the Vietnamese. He was writing that Vietnam as a cultural and historical entity may not survive the most intense attack that an area this size has ever been subjected to. He was talking about South Vietnam. Well, by that point, with over 500,000 Americans, we were finally able to have a public demonstration without it being broken up. That's liberal Cambridge.